Emily sat at the edge of the white-clothed table, her heart pounding louder than the clinking glasses around her, and for the 100th time that evening, she glanced down at the worn purse lying on her lap, inside of which were exactly 5 crumpled dollars, not a penny more, the only money she could afford to bring to this dinner, the only amount she could spare after scraping by on her part-time waitress job and barely paying the rent on her tiny one-room apartment, a place where the ceiling leaked when it rained and the heater barely worked, yet still her sanctuary, because it was hers, a roof she had fought to keep over her head after her parents had died and left her with nothing but unpaid bills and a mountain of grief. And tonight, she was supposed to forget about all of that. She was supposed to smile, to look pretty, to hope that maybe, just maybe, this blind date her coworker had insisted on arranging might change her life. But already as she sat there, nervously folding and unfolding the napkin on her lap, she felt the weight of shame pressing down on her, because how could she possibly enjoy a dinner she couldn't afford? How could she sit in a place where a glass of water probably cost more than what she had in her purse? And yet she stayed, because there was a stubborn flicker of hope in her heart, a desperate whisper that said, perhaps tonight something good could happen. Perhaps love didn't care about bank accounts or broken shoes or patched dresses. And speaking of dresses, Emily had spent hours ironing the cream-colored one she wore, smoothing out the tiny patch on the hem so no one would notice, pairing it with the old flats she had polished until they shone faintly in the candlelight. And though she didn't have expensive makeup or jewelry, her natural beauty glowed through her soft blonde curls and her wide blue eyes that carried both innocence and sorrow, the kind of eyes that could stop someone in their tracks if they only took the time to look closer. But the man she was waiting for hadn't looked yet, because he hadn't arrived, and every tick of the golden clock on the restaurant wall made her anxiety grow heavier, while all around her couples laughed softly, their wine glasses catching the light as waiters glided past carrying plates of food so elegant and richly plated that Emily's stomach clenched with both hunger and humiliation. Hunger, because she hadn't eaten since morning to save what little food she had at home, and humiliation because she knew she couldn't order anything more than a glass of water without exposing herself, and so she sat in silence, staring at the flickering candle in front of her, until finally the man she had been waiting for walked in, tall, well-dressed, with a smirk tugging at the corners of his lips as if the world already belonged to him, and when his eyes landed on her, he gave her a once-over, his brows raising slightly in judgment, before he approached and slid into the chair opposite her without so much as a kind smile, instead signaling a waiter with a snap of his fingers, ordering an expensive bottle of wine before even greeting her, and Emily's heart sank further, because she knew already this man wasn't what she had hoped for, but she forced a polite smile, whispering hello, introducing herself, while he glanced at his phone as though she were nothing more than an inconvenience. And as the minutes passed, his arrogance bled into every word, every gesture, the way he talked about his job, his car, his vacations, all the while never asking her a single question, never looking into her eyes, and when the waiter finally turned to Emily to ask what she would like, she swallowed her shame and said softly, "Just water, please," her voice trembling, her cheeks burning with humiliation as the man across from her scoffed and muttered under his breath about people who couldn't even handle a simple dinner. And though Emily's heart cracked, she kept her composure, lifting the glass of water when it arrived, holding it delicately as though it were the finest drink in the world, whispering a quiet thank you to the waiter, her kindness shining even through her embarrassment. And it was in that very moment, though she didn't realize it, that someone else was watching her from a nearby table, someone who had noticed her the instant she walked in, someone who had seen the fear in her eyes when she sat down and had watched with growing anger as her so-called date treated her with disrespect, that someone being Daniel, a man in his mid-30s with sharp eyes softened by something deeper, a man in a tailored suit who carried himself with confidence, the kind that came from years of building a business empire from the ground up, but behind that confidence lay the heart of a father who had once known struggle, who had once counted coins just to feed his little girl, a father who had promised himself never to forget what it felt like to be invisible, to be judged, and as he sat with his daughter Lily at the table next to Emily's, he couldn't tear his eyes away from the young woman quietly enduring the cruelty of her companion, his protective instincts sparking to life, though he forced himself to stay silent, to watch, to understand, because something told him this girl's story was more than what met the eye, something told him that tonight was about to change everything not only for her but for him as well. And as Emily excused herself to the restroom, clutching her purse like a shield, Daniel leaned back in his chair, his mind racing, his daughter Lily tugging at his sleeve and whispering, "Daddy, why does that lady look so sad?" And he didn't know how to answer, not yet, but deep down he knew that question would haunt him until he did something about it, until he found a way to reach out, because no one deserved to sit in a crowded room and feel completely alone, no one deserved to believe that $5 made them unworthy of love.